Hey, what's up? I'm Ashton.
I'm Wayne, and on today's episode of Gamer Gab, we're going to talk about video game moments that live rent-free inside our heads.
Followed by my controversial review of God of War Ragnarok.
And I'm going to tell you what it's like to be a cat when I play Stray.
And as usual, we're going to follow it up with some game news, so let's get started.
Gamer Gab.
Go!
All right, Wayne, so hit us with your first game moment that lives rent-free in your head.
Okay, I'm going to take you back. I'm going to take you on a trip back to 2006.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Elder Scrolls Oblivion, Elder Scrolls 4 just came out. There had been a lot of hype, as you can imagine, around this game. Talking about it was on the next-gen console at the time, which was the Xbox 360 or the PlayStation 3, I guess. And, you know, they were talking about how crazy the graphics were for this game.
Oh my
and
gosh.
like with all Elder Scrolls games, you know, your character starts off as a prisoner, whether you're in a jail cell or with like Skyrim where you're still a prisoner, you're just in the back of a cart or whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, in Oblivion, you start out in a dungeon in a jail cell, and you know, I'm looking around, I'm thinking, okay, well, these graphics were supposed to like blow my mind, you know, like the walls are gray and they look like bricks, like, okay, whatever. And about, I don't know, 10 minutes into the game, you emerge out of this drain pipe essentially out into the world, and I just remember being completely floored by the way it looked. I mean, the outdoor environments for the time in 2006 were just crazy. And, you know, now when you look at it up against even Skyrim, that's a decade old now, it's not impressive by today's standards, but back then, man, it really blew me away.
Yeah, you always have to keep it in mind, like the age of a game, because if you're comparing it against, you know, new releases, new technology, well, yeah, it's not going to look the same, but for the time, shocking.
Yeah, it was something really special back then, for sure. What's your first one?
Well, funny enough, it's another Bethesda hit. So mine is Fallout 4. That was my first experience with Fallout game, and I completely fell in love with the game. You're in this world, and it wasn't a vivid world. I mean, it had the retro pops of color, which I thought was so cool. The whole vibe of the game was unique. And this was on, I guess, PlayStation 4 is whenever I picked it up. But I think that one of the big moments that hit me in that game, you know, you hear about Diamond City. You know, and at this point, for the most part, it's grays, browns, undertone, and everything. It's post-apocalyptic.
Right.
You know, so you get amped up hearing about Diamond City, you know, and I'll just never forget finding Diamond City and it being, you know, called Diamond City because it's a baseball field.
Right. Yeah.
You get in there and there's like lights and just pops of color that you hadn't really seen. And I just thought it was the neatest thing to explore, not to mention all the freedom you had to explore. It just stood out from the rest of the game.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah.
So what do you have next?
Okay, next up on my list is one that I'm going to have to give a little bit of a disclaimer here. There will be spoilers for this game. I'm going to talk about Fable 3. From 2008. So, if you haven't played Fable 2 in the last 15 years, I'm about to ruin it for you. So,
Get out.
click to the next chapter. Yeah, so the ending of Fable 3 rocked me. I don't know, call it a character flaw. I always try to play the hero, you know, be the good guy, make the good choices, and do what a hero would do, right?
Yeah.
And Fable games were really pretty groundbreaking when it came to NPC interaction and stuff like that, and how your choices that you made affect the world around you, right? And I just remember, because my wife was playing it with me, I think I've talked about before how she's an armchair gamer. She likes to sit and use me as a human controller and tell me what to do, right? Well, we had been playing this game for hours and hours. You know, we were at the end of the game, and you get presented with a choice.
It is time you gained your reward. Your gift for saving the world from a madman's selfish dream. The spire has awakened, and it still has the power to grant one wish. Yours. Come. Take my hand.
It's all right, little sparrow. Don't be afraid.
You stand in the heart of the spire, as the Archon of the Old Kingdom did thousands of years ago. Now it is your turn. Make a wish, but choose wisely, for it will affect all of Albion. Sacrifice. You may choose to revive all those who died in the spire's making. But in doing so, know that you will never see your family again. Love. Those dearest to you, your family, even your faithful dog, will be restored to life. But their lives come at the cost of the countless innocents who died in building the spire. Or wealth. More gold than you can imagine, to spend on whatever pleases you. But any you loved, and all the spire's prisoners will remain dead, and will not witness your newfound affluence. What will you choose?
My wife didn't talk to me for the rest of the night because I did what heroes do, okay? Like,
You murdered your family?
Exactly. I brought all my people, I brought all the people of the kingdom back, and I sacrificed. I was willing to make the hard choices, okay?
Bruh.
I sacrificed.
Your family?
I sacrificed my dog and my family for the people. And she didn't appreciate that choice, and so
I can't imagine why your wife didn't appreciate that choice.
we still talk about it to this day.
Brings to my attention that we should have a segment on fights you've gotten in over a video game.
Absolutely.
Because I think that would be full of some interesting stories right there.
It would be, for sure. Okay, so what's your number 2?
All right, my number 2 really shouldn't be a shock. It's Ghost of Tsushima. It's gotten a lot of rave reviews. I've seen recently articles where gamers have voted it the most beautiful game that exists. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I kind of stand by it from everything that I've seen, everything I've played. And I'll never forget turning it on, and this was on PlayStation 4 even, and I had never played a game where you swipe across your controller and it cues wind, and the wind you can feel and kind of see, and that's the direction of your mission.
Wow.
I've never seen anything like it, but like the plants and everything, he'll even run his fingers through the plants as he goes by or rides by on his horse. I've just never had any game like it, and so being plopped in that world, immediately being immersed.
No, if I was gonna buy a PlayStation, that would be the title that made me pull the trigger for sure.
Oh, absolutely. But what do you have?
Okay, I've talked several times since we've been doing this show about Senua's Sacrifice. It's one of my favorite games of all time, and it's a really dark gaming experience. We've talked about this before, but the character that you play, Senua, she's suffers from psychosis, which manifests in a number of different ways. Visual and auditory hallucinations for one. She hears voices in her head, and if you've never played Senua's Sacrifice and you do play it with headphones on, because it's a completely different experience. Your jaw will hit the floor. But what really sort of drew me into the game from the very beginning was the narrator in the opening cinematic addresses you as a new voice.
Oh, how rude of me. I never told you of the others. You hear them too, right? They've been around ever since the tragedy.
And at times she'll break the fourth wall, where it's almost like she'll turn and address the camera like she's talking to the voices in her head. She's responding to things that they say to her.
It's not too late to get into the boat and go back. No one will judge her. No one will ever know. Oh, she heard us. There's no going back.
And the first time near the beginning of the game where she turns and looks directly at the camera and addresses the voices directly, is just a really sort of chilling experience, because it makes you feel like, because she is sort of doing the bidding of the voices in her head, you know, and so it makes you feel like you're one of those voices, and so in a way it makes sense that you're controlling her. It's so cool, and it's such a unique experience. If you haven't played it, definitely one to pick up.
Okay, so my last game is going to have to be Hitman 3, to be specific. Saw it, had good reviews, decided to get it, and I genuinely didn't know anything about it, what to expect. So opening mission, you drop in, you're crawling through a vent. I'm like, okay, this kind of seems cool. Finally make your way into this building, and it's supposed to be the tallest skyscraper in the world, I believe. And at this point, I'm like, all right, yeah, like I can get with it, you know? Well, then you finally get to where you're going, and whoa, it's just shocking. The sheer like size of the space that you walk into, the windows, the lighting that comes in, shine on the floor. You know how the sun reflects on floors like in real life? That was exactly what you got. I mean, like the sun is supposed to be seeming like it's just beaming down. It just felt like you were really there. It was definitely a jaw-dropping moment. The graphics were amazing. The lighting was amazing. It was real.
Yeah.
It seemed real.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, guys, well, that's all for this segment. Obviously, these aren't the only game moments that live rent-free in our heads.
But if you're a gamer and you need solid internet, you know who to call.
Conway Corp offers packages of all the way up to 2 gigs, so if you're not happy with your current internet service provider, call 450-6000.
All right, Wayne, so tell us about Stray.
Okay, well, this game actually came out as a PlayStation exclusive in July of 22. And when whenever I saw the announcement, I thought, oh, well, that looked, I watched some of the gameplay and stuff, and I thought, oh, that looks like a cute game, whatever. Just looks like something I'd like to check out. And then I was like, PlayStation, whatever.
Happens too often.
Yeah, story of my life.
Yeah.
But recently, I saw a story that said that it was going to finally be coming out on Xbox, and it dropped last week. So a year and a month after it came out on PlayStation, we finally get it. We lowly Xbox players finally get a chance to experience what life would be like as a cat. And the game didn't disappoint me. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised. It was fun, and playing as a cat, the first thing you see pretty much is the cat waking up with its family. There are like 3 other cats there with it, and they're sleeping like in a drain tunnel, basically. There's this really beautiful like green lush vegetation all around, and it's raining, and you get up and go and greet your other family members. You can play with them or like rub on them and stuff, like doing cat things. That's what I'm going to call this segment, doing cat things, because that's basically what it is. It's a cat sim with a heart. I mean, you about 5 minutes into the game, this isn't really a spoiler, your cat falls from a really high place down and finds itself inside an ancient walled city. And what you discover in this walled city that's underground is there are no humans. And so as the player, you start to notice, okay, well, there are these cities, this giant city, there are buildings, there are all these lights that are on, but there's nobody here. And so you sort of start to question as you're walking around doing cat things, there is more to it. And that's what pleasantly surprised me about it, is that there is a surprisingly deep story attached to this game. You befriend a little robot drone. And I don't know if you see in the picture there, your cat's wearing a backpack. That's a charging station for your little drone friend that you get. He lands on your back to charge up, and then he'll fly around and like help you unlock doors and stuff, right?
Okay.
And so you encounter, there are NPCs in the game. They're all robots. They're called the companions. And I'm not going to give anything away about the plot here, but the companions were originally created as companions for the human residents of this city, but they're all gone, and now it's just the companions down there. And so
Interesting.
over the course of the game, you really experience the world through the cat. And I really love the way that they did the things in this game, the cat things in this game. You know, if you've ever owned a cat, or you've ever been on the internet for more than 5 minutes and seen funny cat videos, they put in all the classic cat things, you know, hiding in cardboard boxes, scratching on people's doors. You can scratch up people's rugs. You can jump up on shelves and knock stuff into the floor. You can run across people's keyboards and on pianos, and, you know, all of the stuff that you see thousands upon thousands of videos on the internet of cats doing. You get to do all those things.
Sounds perfect.
You're dumb. But yeah, so like I said, it's a simple game, and it's not a long game. It took me about 5.5 hours to get through it, so it's not a long game for sure, but it's a deceptively deep game, and it does have a really interesting story attached to it, so it's fun.
That does surprise me. I hate to say that I didn't expect the game to be deep at all.
Yeah.
You know, because, well, you see a cat with like a little backpack on, you're like, so cute.
Exactly.
You know? But it's
and
good to hear.
It is. I mean, it's adorable, but there's a lot more to it. And so, you know, if you're into that kind of thing, definitely pick up Stray, because it was a good time.
So hit us with the cons.
The cons. You know, the thing about being a cat is that above all else, cats are fast and they're agile, right? And the way they do the platforming in this game, I can kind of see why they did it, but like if you can't just jump at any time. If you're just standing there on the ground, you hit the A button, cat doesn't do anything. But if you walk up and, you know, point the camera essentially at a ledge above you, you'll get a little button prompt that pops up. You have to hit it to jump to that spot. And so essentially what they did is they created a very vertical world. You move, you know, you jump on top of air conditioner units and window ledges and stuff to reach high places, but they essentially took out the potential danger of falling to your death. And I don't know, I feel like that gives a disservice to
The risk.
the idea of being a cat and the risk that you take in those situations, you know, because it does slow down gameplay. And there are places in the game where you're being chased, those chase scenes where you have to run away from something that's chasing you, and enemies coming in from this side and this side, and you have to run and, you know, weave in and out, and you have to jump sometimes.
Your
and,
adrenaline would be way more.
right, and
Yeah.
it takes a little bit of the fluidity and grace out of being a cat, because there is that slight pause when you're being chased and you have to stop and just for that split second to see that button prompt, hit the button to make him jump
Yeah.
up onto the ledge and then continue to run. So, but honestly, I think that's probably the only con.
The only con.
I mean, other than the fact that you can't fall to your death from the top of a building, you know, I mean, that just seems like something that should be in there when you're talking about being a tiny animal and scaling a big building, you know.
I guess they're thinking, typically, unless something's wrong, typically cats don't really fall.
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, you know, that would also be a fun way to do it, I think, if they had just basically taken fall damage out of it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, in real life, I mean, there are stories of cats surviving falls from 30-story buildings and walking away. I mean, that's actually happened.
That's such a cat thing to do.
I know, right? Just brush that off.
Go take a nap.
So I think that if they had just gotten rid of fall damage and because there are places that you can't jump to, you know, and so if they had just let you do that via trial and error, I think that it would have added a more fun aspect to the game, because it would have put that agility back into it, you know.
Yeah.
And so I do think that's a con, you know, not being quite as agile as you feel like you should be.
Yeah.
But it's a really cute game, and it's definitely worth a play if you've got a few hours. Yeah.
Nice. Okay, so what do you give it? What do you rate it?
I'm gonna give it a 7. I enjoyed it. It was short. And the fact that you have to be prompted before you can jump kind of hurt it a little bit for me.
Yeah.
But it is a fun game, and it's definitely worth a play.
Okay. So not a
Perfect. Not perfect.
But it's serviceable.
All right.
Yeah. All right, so Ashton, tell us what you thought about God of War Ragnarok.
Okay, so this is the continuation of 2018's God of War. And holy cow, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Funny story, guys. So I'm new to God of War. I tried to do my research. I had a free download a friend gave me, or else I would have played God of War. But yes, you heard me correctly. I jumped into God of War Ragnarok without God of War. So I tried to do my best to catch up on the story, but don't worry, I'm not even going to try to unpack all of that. 2005 is whenever this game first released.
Yeah, I think the 2018 version was essentially a reboot to the series after the first season.
From what I've gathered, that is how it is. I mean, Kratos, obviously same guy.
He's seen some things.
For sure. He definitely has experienced some things, and it's caused a lot of character development. And that's what I didn't want to miss. Key points that made Kratos who he is in this game. Sure. That adds a lot to the story, because you do hear rave reviews about this game. My review might be a little bit controversial. Buckle up. They find out in the last game that Kratos is
prophesied.
Yeah, I was trying to think, how do you... There was a prophecy where Kratos is predicted to die in Ragnarok.
Right.
And so this game is all about stopping Ragnarok from happening. So that's the end of the world, for those of you who didn't know.
Can we talk about how convoluted the mythology is getting here? Like the ghost of Sparta is supposed to die in the end of the world in Norse mythology. I'm not exactly sure how that works.
Who was also the god of war. It's a convoluted story, so there's a lot that you can miss easily. I think even fans could easily miss if you don't do your research into it. So I'm gonna do my best here, folks.
All right, so give us the pros and cons for God of War.
Okay, well, surprisingly enough, I actually am gonna start out with the cons, because it was a new story for me, and I didn't know what to expect. You start out the game, and there's quick time events, long cutscenes.
I remember those from the first two.
You cannot skip them, which you probably shouldn't skip them for the story. However, replayability right there. Who's going to want to sit through these long cutscenes?
Sure.
You're not attached to anybody yet as a new player, which is partially my fault. The game also kind of caught me off guard. I didn't expect it to be as linear as it is. Yeah. It's one of the first things a lot of people do with older games that have been around. They open it up, which there are good linear games like Resident Evil, but this game struck me as more like Horizon, Forbidden West style, maybe, but I didn't know what to expect. So it being so linear, I was kind of like, I don't know. And then the mechanics took getting used to for sure. The camera, he can't jump.
Yeah.
He gets stuck. You can only go in certain areas, and he can pick up trees and launch them, but then he can't go through a bush. I'm like, okay. The mechanics are just clunky to me, or were, and the camera angle. At one point, I nearly rage quit. I think I told you this. I'm not kidding you guys. I got so mad. I thought my controller was broken. I unplugged it, and I never unplugged. I unplugged it, replaced the controller, replugged it in, had to stop the game down, was looking in the settings, looked online if there was a glitch, because I couldn't see. I had to fight someone and the camera would move. There was loot behind me. It wouldn't let me look behind me. It was the weirdest thing. Like, I'm in 2002 playing, actually maybe even earlier, like a PlayStation 1.
2005, because we talked about this off camera. That's exactly the way it was for the original God of War and God of War 2. And it sounds like, because I haven't played the reboots, it sounds like they haven't updated the gameplay really at all.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like from what I saw and what I heard. So that was kind of off-putting a bit, being new to the game, but also it's 2022 when this came out. I'm like, what is this? It took time for me to get acclimated to the game itself and the characters, to warm up to the characters, to really thoroughly enjoy this game, because it is enjoyable, but it's rough around the edges for someone who's new to it. But it's like once you get acclimated and you get into the game more, you look past this stuff. I appreciated the way that the puzzles are in the game is really neat, because he's got his different weapons. You know, he's got his axe, and then he has
The Blades of Chaos.
Yes.
On the chains.
Yes, the Blades of Chaos are apparently reintroduced.
Oh, cool.
And it's really neat how they incorporate those as tools in the puzzles. I haven't seen something done so well when it comes to that, actually.
Cool.
I don't think. Very unique. And the characters in the game are so likable. It was just such a different game than what I pegged it for. It seemed very dark. It's probably lightened up if I was to guess. I would have to guess because I don't know for sure. Yeah. But with his child being introduced, and then you have these lighthearted characters.
I know that the original God of War and God of War 2 both had some adult content in there. Like, how does this one rate so far when it comes to that?
You know, it's rated M, but to be honest, it's just, there's some gore, yes.
Yeah.
But not near as much as I would have thought.
Okay.
Especially looking back at the older games.
Yeah.
It used to just be blood everywhere, but the graphics weren't
Right.
good. So they had to do that.
Right.
Now you can see more detail, so it's not really necessary.
Yeah.
But just really enjoyable cast of the game, and I appreciated the humor while it also hits hard and you care about the characters, and that's how you get a good game.
Sure.
So while there were cons when it came to mechanics, camera, maybe long cutscenes that you can't skip, and then QuickTime events, I'm okay with QuickTime events if they're used in moderation.
Yeah.
It is a bit littered with them. You play as Atreus a little bit. I was like, oh no, I'm gonna be kind of like in Resident Evil whenever you play as Ashley.
Yeah.
That's what I was expecting.
Yeah. So Atreus has got his own tricks, huh?
Atreus, I actually enjoyed playing Atreus possibly more.
Really?
Yeah, didn't expect that. That was
cool.
shocking. There's things in there that makes it feel like you're playing on a PlayStation 2. Like the things that are dropped on the ground, he like stomps. You go over and stomp the little orbs that are lit up, you know?
Yeah.
So something about it feels a little, dare I say, retro. But what a mix. Overall, what wins out is going to be a solid story.
Sure.
And the characters and the puzzles in the game. So you're able to look over and look past some of the things that are frustrating.
So what do you rate it?
I would have to rate this game. This is tough. And it changes. If you would have asked me in the beginning of the game what I was going to rate it,
Yeah.
I would rate it like maybe a 7. Yeah. See, there's the controversy. Once you get through it, I think I'd have to rate it, which y'all still might find this a little low. Maybe I'll say 8.5. 8.5. I'll say 8.5. Loosen up the camera. Why did that happen? You know, there's no point in that. And then the linear stuff, it would have been, I guess, cooler, maybe. It's got such a rich storyline, and there's so much going on that they can get away with it. But should you get away with it? I don't know. You know, it's debatable that it would be so much better, but let me skip some cutscenes.
Okay, so do you guys agree with that? Do you think God of War Ragnarok deserves an 8.5, or do you think it's a 10 out of 10? Let us know in the comments.
Everybody knows if you're a real gamer, you have more than one console. So if you do, and they're in different locations, you need managed Wi-Fi powered by Plume.
Each Plume pod grants you the ability to essentially have a hardwired connection in every room of your house. So if you're interested in a whole home Wi-Fi system, contact Conway Corp at 450-6000. Tell them to hook you up.
All right, Wayne, hit us with the latest and the greatest in the game news world.
All right, I found this article on IGN, and it's the 90s video game face-off. So you may be a little young for most of these, since you were like
A
six.
fetus.
You were 6 by the end of the 90s, right? Ish.
Yes.
But any guesses what the number one video game of the 90s could be?
Bond? James Bond?
It's on the list. It's in the top 10. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah.
Mario?
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4 Mario games on the in the top 10, but they're not number one.
Was Zelda?
Yes. Ocarina of Time.
Wait,
According
did
to-
I get it right?
Yeah, according to IGN, Ocarina of Time came in first place. But to round out the top 5, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, number 1, Mario 64 at number 2, Super Mario World at number 3, The Legend of Zelda A Link to the Past at number 4, and the top 5 rounded out with GoldenEye 007.
Oh, yeah. I played that. I played that with my cousin and my dad.
I'm pretty sure GoldenEye was the first. It was either GoldenEye or Quake was like the first console shooter, that like competitive shooter that I played. If you're curious, number 6, Final Fantasy 7. Number 7 was Metal Gear Solid. Number 8, Mario Kart 64. Number 9, Super Metroid. And number 10, Super Mario Kart. So let us know in the comments if you approve of that list or not. The next story I've got is from Kotaku. I always wonder if I'm pronouncing that correctly, because
It sounded good.
Thanks. I appreciate that. But they ranked the top 5 earning Resident Evil games. And I was a little bit surprised with this list. I'm not going to lie. The top 5 earning Resident Evil games are actually the Resident Evil 2 remake was number 1, which surprised me. I kind of expected it to be Resident Evil 4, the original.
There was so
just
much
because
hype.
I expected it to be the original, not the remake, just because it's so widely loved, you know, and so many people think of it as the best one out there.
I thought that it was going to be either the original or the remake, because there was so much hype around the original. For one, I knew it was widely loved.
Yeah.
But that's why the 4 remake got so much attention.
Yeah, so Resident Evil 2 remake with 12.6 million. And then number 2 is Resident Evil 7. Number 3 and 4, Resident Evil 5 and 6. To round out the top 5 best-selling Resident Evil games, Resident Evil Village, number 8. So, which I thought was good. The next story that I've got here from Gaming Bible, Xbox, one thing that they've always been way ahead of PlayStation on is the backward compatibility game. But a lot of people on PlayStation are excited now because Red Dead Redemption is actually being released for PlayStation. So people who haven't played it and haven't had access to it because they had a newer console are finally going to be able to play Red Dead Redemption.
You should check out the price on it.
Yeah, actually, it's in this article. It's $50.
Well, that's like the original game price, but you know, you are talking about a game
It's
that's
13 years old. Red Dead Redemption is 13 years old, and they're putting a $50 price tag on the PlayStation and Nintendo Switch versions of the game.
You what?
So I guess if you want to play Red Dead that bad, you're gonna have to open the old wallet.
gotta get used to that.
Start making it rain in the game store.
Expensive hobby we have here.
Yeah, for sure. All right, this next one from TechnoWiz is a little bit of a knock to Sony, I think. They did a story about the new Sony Project Q, which is their handheld console, the new hotness of the PSP line, that I think is, man, this just does not seem like a good idea from Sony for me. I mean, it's basically a cloud gaming Switch, essentially. If I'm understanding the article correctly, and you guys feel free to bash me in the comments if I'm wrong, but it's looking like it's only going to be able to be a proxy for the games that you already have on your home console, and you're just going to cloud game them.
When you leave your home, because you're going to need it on both ends, your internet to be good on both ends.
Yeah.
If you leave, your internet's not going to be pushing what you would need to with the graphics.
Even, you're not going to be able to sit in a coffee shop and cloud game, the new Fallout or something. Well, not on a PlayStation, you're not. Sorry.
Sensitive subject.
You're going to have Conway Court grade internet on both ends. And I mean, where are you going to find that? When was the last time you tried to connect to Wi-Fi in the airport while you're sitting waiting? You can barely get a web page to load, much less stream a game in 4K across their network.
Yeah, I think that they're banking on 5G coming in, and maybe that's what it is. I don't think that, once again, the technology is there. I think that they're pushing the limits.
And see, this article doesn't say anything about 5G compatibility with this device. It says handheld console using remote play over Wi-Fi. So if they're putting all their eggs in the Wi-Fi basket, this is... I don't see how they could possibly think this is a good idea.
You're absolutely right. It just dawned on me that it's not going to be able to hook up to anything but Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Yeah.
But I mean, if it was 5G compatible, unless you're paying for an unlimited data plan.
And gosh.
All data plans nowadays they might be unlimited, but after a certain number of gigs, they're going to throttle your connection back.
Yeah.
And even streaming in HD over a Wi-Fi connection or over a cellular connection, you're going to hit that cap real quick playing a game. And then they're going to choke your connection back to 2G or something, and you're not going to be able to play anymore.
If I believed in magic, I'd be very excited for this.
Oh, man. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how Sony feels like this is a good idea, but let us know what you think. Are you excited about Project Q?
I hope that it works. I would love for that to be an option.
Yeah. But I mean, all the people who are nostalgic for for the PSP back in the day are just, they've got to be dying inside reading what this is shaping up to be.
Yeah.
Because Project Q ain't it, Sony. And last up, this is going to be a very niche story. So if you think you wouldn't be interested in anything that has to do with a Christian video game, then maybe this story's not for you. But this is
interesting.
It's an interesting game that's been announced, and you can see some gameplay on their website. Though it's called GateZero.game. The name of the game is Gate Zero, and according to their website, it says travel back in time to explore ancient Israel, interact with gospel stories, and examine the deeper meaning of Jesus' words. And it looks like it could be interesting. It says you can interact with gospel stories, meet familiar characters, get involved with their stories, and witness biblical events firsthand. You can free roam an open world and discover first century Israel and learn the culture and historic significance of the time, and witness the conflict between social groups, which, if you know anything about Bible times, there's some conflict going on between some social groups. So.
I actually watched some of the gameplay, and there was one mission, and you had to go find some goats or lambs that escaped. You're helping this woman.
Classic fetch quest, man.
Yeah. It looked pretty cool. It was actually pretty big.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It was interesting. You don't hear about these types of games coming out so often.
Yeah, the gameplay video that they've got posted on their website here actually looks pretty good. It looks a little bit
like a Switch game.
Yeah, it looks graphically to me. The art style is a little bit like Tears of the Kingdom, something on that level. So, I mean, but of course, for an indie game, you know, you're not going to get AAA graphics out of a game that's being funded on Indiegogo. So
I will say, because I watched what they had so far, the opening sequence and where you start, and the graphics hit much harder in that. So I'm wondering if that's expected to be improved. Probably is. Maybe is. I don't know.
We're going to keep up with this because this is a little bit interesting to us. So we'll give you an update on Gate Zero
as it develops,
as it goes on. But yeah, you can play the prototype on Steam right now, and you can pre-order it on Indiegogo if you're interested.
All right, guys. Looks like that's all we've got for you today. Drop us a like or a comment, and be sure to subscribe so you can keep up to date with us. And we'll see you guys next time.
Gamer Gab.
Go.